So you clicked on this video probably cause you lost a few No Nut November challenges to Astolfo and Felix, didn't realize they were guys, and are now filled with tremendous guilt, questioning if it was gay or not. But don't worry, I got your back. Amidst through all this darkness, I would be the one that will guide you to enlightenment and answer the question you have been looking for. Is liking anime femboys gay or not? And the answer is... nope. But how exactly is it not gay? Well, to understand why it isn't, we first need to understand the basics of human attraction, and go all the way back and understand our primal instincts. So I'm sure that you know how it feels to be physically attracted to someone. You see someone who has silky hair, beautiful eyes, a soothing voice, and your heart can't just help but go doki doki. So at least in that aspect, you know what attraction is like. But how and why does this happen exactly? There's been a ton of concepts and ideas that try to explain the complex phenomenon called attraction, with not a single one being able to fully explain it. But one theory that stuck out the most for me in the study of attraction is the evolutionary psychology. It's a field studied by evolutionary psychologists, mostly by David Buss and Geoffrey Miller, who made the most contributions. Evolutionary psychology seeks to understand the human mind and behavior by examining the adaptive functions that may have served over the course of human evolution. Now, in relation to physical attraction, this whole theory says that it is a symptom of our primal instincts of wanting to reproduce. And I guess it kind of makes sense. Other animals have cues for when a female is ready to reproduce. Cats, for example, have several indications for this. When they are in heat, they usually produce distinct vocalizations to attract other male cats. They may also use their tails. They put their tail on one side, making the cat more accessible for mating. They may also use pheromones and scent markings to communicate their readiness to mate. But for us humans, there is no built-in mechanism for us to do that. So how did our ancestors gauge a human's readiness to mate? Well, physical attraction just comes down to selecting the female who's the most likely candidate for a successful reproduction. And the things related for the indication for this is their fertility and youthfulness. And the things related to these two is, of course, the physical features of a woman. It can range from their eyes, their body proportions, weight, and even non-visual cues such as their voice. The more closely shaped these factors are to the youthfulness of the female body, the more quote-unquote attractive they are. So in short, physical attraction happens if you find a person breedable. But even if we know what attraction is, how do we even know what kind of attraction or love we have for anime femboys? Well, according to Helen Fisher, there are 3 stages of love. First is lust, the stage where you feel a strong desire to mate with the person that caught your interest. The second is attraction, where a person feels a romantic connection to the person. And lastly, attachment. Assuming that you and the person you're interested in are already a couple, this stage of love showcases the long-term commitment as obsession with each other dramatically falls. Now, looking at these 3 stages, it's clear the type or stage of attraction or love one may have for anime femboys is lust. Definitely. No questions asked. That really says a lot about you guys. Now, this is important to know because out of all the stages of love, lust is a stage where physical attraction is instinctively at its highest. Sure, attraction may also exist in the other 2 stages of love, but in these stages, your level of attraction is already affected by other factors like the person's personality, the way they act, and others. While at lust, this pure and raw level of attraction is untainted and natural, meaning that attraction at this stage is purely instinctive and natural due to the nature of us humans, and also adding evolutionary psychology to the point, which even further solidifies that attraction at this stage occurs as a mechanism based on our instinct as human beings. And as for physical features that make a woman attractive, well, let's delve into the details. According to science, several key factors play a significant role in attraction. Use this knowledge very well. Now, of course, I've already mentioned that what makes a woman physically attractive has something to do with how clear their eyes look, non-visual cues such as their voice, body proportions, and anything that suggests youthfulness and fertility. And according to our good friend science, there are specific features that makes a girl attractive. The features that contributes the most to a woman's physical attractiveness is their facial symmetry, their waist-to-hip ratio, and their BMI, amongst other things. When a person's face is proportioned and balanced, their attractiveness tends to be greater, meaning that the left and right sides of the face are similar in terms of the placement and size of facial features, such as the eyes, nose, and mouth. And if you're thinking of doing plastic surgery just because you heard this from me, please don't. It ain't worth your money. As for the waist-to-hip ratio, studies have shown a specific measurement that appeals the most to men. Now, if you don't know exactly what a waist-to-hip ratio is, it's basically the result of the circumference of the waist divided by the circumference of the hips. And the men generally prefer women with a waist-to-hip ratio with around 0.7, with it looking like this. And the next indicator we have is the BMI. Although many professionals say that the BMI is an outdated way of calculating the ideal weight for a person due to a number of factors, some studies think that it's still a good guide in terms of determining attractiveness. Usually, a BMI of between 18.5 to 24.9 is ideal, indicating that the person's weight is normal, and it's more preferable rather than having a BMI on the extreme ends of either low or high. Because some people, at least with the people I've talked to, thinks that being underweight is the key to attractiveness. Now, of course, some people do prefer that. Attraction is, after all, subjective, and I guess not everyone has the same taste. But generally speaking, most men would not prefer this. According to science, okay? Don't bash me for this. And that's because, once again, the specific measurements for these three are linked back to a person's youthfulness and fertility.
But we're talking about fictional anime femboys here. What does real women have to do with them?
Yeah, I hear you. But we'll get there when we get there. It'll all make sense in the end. And since we've talked about what makes women attractive, do you think that it's any different with anime characters? Well, I don't think it's massively different. It's not like anime characters' features aren't based off of humans, but there are distinct qualities that makes them more attractive. And I guess it pretty much has something to do with how they are artistically drawn. Anime artists aren't gonna create characters that's not gonna get the attention of their audience. So what do? They of course make their characters look as appealing as possible by picking all the positive traits of a physically attractive individual and just mush it all together, creating these abominations that we adore and love today. Their exaggerated features make them stand out, from their abnormally huge eyes to physics-defying hair. They convey a wide range of emotions, whether it's for tears, anger, or laughter. But at a psychological standpoint, there is one explanation I can think of why they're so attractive, and it's with a psychological effect called the halo effect, which is also known as the physically attractive stereotype. It's a cognitive bias where someone's initial positive impression of a person, often based on physical attractiveness or some other favorable characteristic, influences their perception of the person's other qualities. So basically, what it means is that when we find someone attractive, we tend to put them high up in a pedestal, messing with our perception of our impression towards the person. This attraction also affects the way we see the traits of a person, viewing them positively, even if those traits aren't immediately apparent or objectively true. Oh, I just murdered a few people, but you'll forgive me because I'm cute, right? Gotta love characters that are just morally wrong, yet we still like them because they're attractive. But that's the gist of the halo effect. The visually appealing designs and relatable personalities of anime characters creates a positive overall impression, which in turn makes them more attractive to the viewers. And most importantly, their designs, especially their eyes, conveys a sense of innocence and purity, which suggests, yep, you guessed it, youthfulness and in turn fertility. Now, let's all tie this together by looking at Astolfo, arguably the most popular anime femboy, and apply all the things I said as we look into his features. Now, do keep in mind everything I've said so far. Most importantly, the theory of evolutionary psychology. Starting with how he physically looks, his face is definitely symmetrical, as with many other anime characters, to enhance their attractiveness, as his eyes also perfectly conveys the sense of purity and innocence, which makes him much more visually appealing. For his waist-to-hip ratio, there's really no way for me to exact his measurements. However, by using this image as a reference and comparing it to Astolfo, I can say that his are close to the figure of someone who has childbearing hips. And for his BMI, he does have official height and weight, with a height of 164 centimeters, weight of 56 kilograms, and the age of... Oh my God. Thankfully, after a bit of research, this seems to be misinformation, as he doesn't seem to have a source stating what his official age is. However, lore-wise, seeing that he is a knight from the medieval times, I can say that he is at least 20 years old, since that is the minimum age requirement at that time. False alarm, everyone. Moving on, using these measurements, we'll get a BMI of 20.8, which is very ideal for trying to look attractive. So, Astolfo possesses all the three key components that makes a person attractive. And let's not forget that Astolfo is a fictional character drawn to be visually appealing, with his other traits enhancing his attractiveness, such as his voice actress and personality. As the official site says, Astolfo is known in his legend for being eternally optimistic and completely lacking in sense, and he can be called curiosity in human form. Adding that to the fact is the nature of femboys in general, in which they actually try to look more feminine than actual girls. Their hyper-feminine features makes them much more attractive, as they try to put huge amounts of effort to not only look like a woman, but a woman with exaggerated physical traits. So combining all these three factors to Astolfo, his hyper-femininity, his ideal physical features, and the fact that he's a character drawn to be visually appealing using anime traits, builds up to him being an extremely attractive-looking character that surpasses the looks of a woman, even though he's a guy. And going back to the stage of love, lust, and the evolutionary psychology theory, and remembering the points I made there, justifies us being attracted to a woman-looking man, because in the stage of lust, attraction to feminine features is instinctive and natural. And further expanding the point is the evolutionary psychology, in which we look for these feminine features to gauge someone's capability to reproduce, which is our built-in mechanism. So technically, it's not our fault if we are attracted to anime femboys. It's part of our nature to be attracted to them. And as a cyborg once said,
"Don't be ashamed, it's only nature running its course."
So can we really blame ourselves if we are attracted to anime femboys like Astolfo, who bears all the positive qualities that we instinctively look for in a woman? I think you know the answer. As for if anime femboys are better than anime women, that may be another topic for another bit. So now you can finally sleep with all those femboy body pillows that you've bought without guilt. Hooray! But all jokes aside, this video isn't meant to be some sort of scientific breakthrough. This is just meant for entertainment, rather than as a definitive scientific analysis. I may have cited some actual scientific studies that may support my argument, but do remember that physical attraction is a very complex phenomenon. There's a lot of factors to consider, and this video is just the tip of the iceberg. Also, I'm not really an expert, so yeah. After all, if we knew everything about love and physical attraction, then an anime like this wouldn't exist. This is really a massive stretch on my part, but if you liked the video, then do leave a thumbs up, and do tell me what you want to see next in the comments down below. But that's all for this one, and I'll see you